Hello everyone, good morning. I've got my new microphone. I've also got a new wireless microphone which I'm not using today, but I've got that as well. So hopefully the audio quality on this video will be better than the last two or three. Okay, so let's dive into it. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about why a lot of YouTube creators kind of give up on their YouTube channels, which is an interesting topic. There's a lot of different reasons for it. We're going to get into that today. I suppose we can all relate to that. We've maybe all seen our favorite creators pumping out videos and then it goes quiet, and you maybe wonder why or what's happened or whatever. And as I say, there's lots of different reasons. Just off the top of my head, some of them, we've all got pressures in life, financial pressures, work pressures. We're busy with what's called life. We've got families or partners or friends, social life. And YouTube is actually quite hard work. I've been doing it for just under 2 years. Excuse me. And it is a bit of a slog. It's one of the tougher social media platforms to crack compared to something like TikTok, or where you just upload like a silly little reel, and they're all silly, but they're very short clips, and you just upload it and you get a lot of attention from the younger crowd. So with YouTube, it's a lot more hard work. You have to, as I've touched on before, you have to spend quite a bit of money to get the right bit of kit. The costs are coming down a little bit, but you're still looking at sort of 600-700 quid just to get started with a it depends what kind of camera you go for, like a DJI Osmo 3. It's very great for like filming in public and stuff. I've got like a Sony camera for like the indoor vlogs. I can use it outdoors as well, tripod and stuff. And then you got your subscriptions, sort of Canva Pro, Adobe Express, Artlist, Epidemic Sound, vidIQ, stuff like that. And by the time you've tallied it all together, you're sort of spending, excuse me, slight cough. You're spending easily, 300-400 quid a year just on the subscriptions, and then you've got to have the kit as well. So the first year you're looking at £1,000, maybe a bit more, just to get it going. In subsequent years, depending on the type of videos you make, you're probably looking at least, to be realistic, 250-300 quid for the subscriptions, just to get access to different components to make the videos. And it burns time. I've got the full list in front of me. The main sort of drivers as why people give up on these things. In no particular order. Let's get into it because I'm rambling on a bit. Just bear with me 10 secs. Okay, so number one. So basically, slow growth, lack of views. People perhaps have these visions that they're going to be highly successful creators. I've seen some of the younger teenage 20s, early 30s, something like that, and they're full of energy. They're talking maybe a bit too confidently, maybe a bit trying to punch above their weight, if that makes sense, and saying they've done this and they've done that and all the rest of it. And that kind of maybe attracts views with a certain cohort, a certain group, similar to where they're at, but it doesn't resonate with everybody. So slow growth and lack of views is one of the big things which makes people question, does this make sense for me or them? Everyone's got a different reason for being on it. I've been through the reasons why I'm on it, which is different to perhaps some of the reasons some of the other people are on it. So everyone's got their own kind of journey, story, and reasons why they're on these platforms. So just read out what it says. It says many creators expect rapid growth, but get discouraged when videos only get a handful of views. Now, obviously, Google Ads has changed now, so that's not as effective as it was. So if you're relying on Google Ads, you won't kind of get the same likes and subscribers as you did before. So the algorithm favors consistency, watch time and audience retention, which take time to build. So it's a bit like SEO. It takes time to build. It's a slow burn. A lot of people maybe get inspired by seeing these travel vloggers, traveling around the world, having a great time, and they think that if they just get hold of a bit of kit from Argos or some other camera shop like Wex, that they're going to be able to join that club and be jetting around the world on holiday and making every night a Saturday night and stuff like that. But it's just not realistic. A lot of the people who've been doing that have been doing it for a long time. They're very polished at it. They've got a lot of experience. Good example of that is like the luxury travel expert. It's one of my favorite creators, because the video is quite classy. They go to the Maldives and they film like first class flights on like Qatar Airways and different places like that. And it's just the way they do it. It's very polished, very slick, very distinguished. But the truth is, to be like that or to try and replicate that, lots of people try to replicate it, and they've struggled, you see, because ultimately there's only one person like you, and if you're trying to just replicate another creator, you're maybe going to run into problems, because everyone's got their own abilities and their strengths and their skills, and it's not as easy as to just kind of copy what other people are doing. Okay, so number 2, monetization challenges. Now, a lot of people have got these dreams to make money from being a content creator, and in recent years, these sites have sprung up which claim to allow people to kind of monetize their channels, even if they haven't reached the 3,000 hours of watch time on YouTube to join the YouTube partnership program. They claim to be able to help creators earn a living even if they've only got like 200 subscribers or something. So one of these sites is called like Buy Me a Coffee, but there are others, and you can basically ask people for money to support your channel, etc, etc, etc. There's a number of different platforms out there, and some people are just using social media like Instagram or LinkedIn, maybe not LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok maybe, to try and push things in the direction they want to go. It's all about leverage, but the truth is, a lot of people don't make the money. I mean, just put things in perspective. Like, I don't have a YouTube channel to make money out of, if you see what I mean. I'm on it for a slightly different reason. But look, to qualify for YouTube's partner program, but that's where YouTube allows you to use all of their features to monetize the channel. You need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. So that's it's the watch hours you see. I mean, I've got the 1,000 subscribers, but I haven't got the 4,000 watch hours. Many creators quit before reaching this milestone because it can take months or years, and that's very true. A lot of the people who've done well on YouTube started a number of years ago. If you started like 4 or 5 or 6, 7, 8 years ago, you're going to be in a better position than if you started last year or this year. So a lot of creators give up. Burnout and consistency pressure. Right, I can tell you now that. So I've got my coffee here. I can tell you now that making a video is quite hard work. You've got to research the video, film the video, edit the video, create a nice thumbnail, create a nice description, research the keywords, research the keyword tags, etc, 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 add in the special effects, and by the time you've faffed around with it and got it drilled down to perfection, you might have spent 4, 5, 6 hours easy, so almost the best chunk of a day. So if you're aiming to put out 4 videos a week, think about how that's going to impact your week. Do you see what I mean? So a lot of people start with this amazing passion and all the rest of it. Maybe they've got unrealistic expectations, and then they give up, because they realize that it's eating into their time and there's an opportunity cost, which they could be doing something else, so same topic. So this is burnout and consistency. So regular uploads are rewarded by the algorithm, but making quality videos consistently is mentally and physically demanding. That's very true. Like if you could pop out a video every day, but is the same quality then everyone would be doing it. But the truth is, you know, people haven't got 5 days a week or 4 days a week or maybe not even 3 days a week to be, you know, spending so much time to make these videos. Because if you're just pushing out rubbish, you know, we've all been there, you know, where you're just trying to cut corners and film a quick video and cut corners on the thumbnail and, you know, cut corners with the editing and special effects and everything else. You know, people are going to notice, and those videos are going to fail, but they're not going to get the likes or the subscribes. Yeah, so you know, just something to think about. Some creators burn out from the editing workload, constant brainstorming, or balancing YouTube with work, school, and life as we know it. So, right, another thing, comparing to others. Right, it's easy to feel demotivated when comparing your channel to bigger creators who seem to grow effortlessly. Get that right. So, look, I mean, you know, I've kind of noticed in recent months that instead of kind of, you know, trying to push it too hard, but just kind of keeping things a bit more realistic and sort of liking and commenting on other videos, you know, you get more subscribers than what you do, you know, by perhaps, you know, running an ad campaign or you know, do you see what I mean? So the algorithm now favors genuine content. You know, it picks up on how long people are watching it for, you know, whether they're just clicking off after 30 seconds and stuff. So if you can kind of create content which resonates with people and comes across as a bit more real instead of it, I mean, I actually hate some of these marketing videos. I think they're too pretentious. You know, some of the people are so arrogant and proud, and you know, and some of the stuff they say doesn't always stack up, to be honest. You know, there's like real life experience, real life marketing, and then there's the people who are just trying to, you know, look good on camera and, you know, how cool they sound and all the rest of it with all the gadgets and stuff. So my advice is just try and keep things real. You know, people you know, have different niches. Some niches are overcrowded, like travel. I think there's too many people doing that. I would love to do that. I do think there's too many people doing that, and I think it's more difficult to get heard and cut through the digital noise in that space. Okay, so another thing that kind of holds people back is a lack of a clear strategy. Now, you know, a lot of people have different interests. You know, I've got a number of different interests myself, but if your channel is too mishmashed up with, you know, different interests, whatever it might be, then it's going to be a bit confusing for the audience and the viewers to figure out what your channel's about. So it is important to kind of try and focus mainly on one niche. Now, I don't strictly, you know, do you see what I mean? Like I try and make the videos that I do make, you know, more or less around the sort of travel tech, marketing space. You know, this video is slightly different. It still falls into the, you know, the digital marketing arena, if you like. Maybe if it's not, you know, but what I don't do on my channels, I don't do these like sort of digital marketing tutorials. Get the words out right, Ian. Because I think there's too many people doing that, and I think a lot of the people who do it don't really do it well. I think there's much better ways to learn. There's lots of free courses out there. I think some of the videos I've copied and pasted all those links, and you get a certificate, and you can spend 4 or 5 hours a day, you know, like Allison.com and Coursera and Google Digital Garage. It's better ways to learn than me wasting my time, if that's something rude, you know, spending 2-3 days a week, you know, because I'm not here to be like a tutor. I've worked in this sector for like over 10 years, on and off. I do like the contract work. So for me, what I try and do is I try and make content which is interesting, but kind of resonates with people, that maybe discusses some of the things which other creators aren't talking about. But, you know, if you can just try and get the right strategy, and it's going to take you some time, you're not going to have the right strategy on day one, but if you can try and, you know, find the right strategy that was going to work for you and your viewers, then you'll have more success. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Negative feedback and low engagement. Now, you know, we've all had negative comments. I mean, yeah, 2 or 3 days ago, I had some young guy from somewhere in Cornwall comment on one of my videos saying it was absolutely insane. When I looked at his channel, like, he didn't have any subscribers, he didn't have any videos, he didn't have a profile picture, and I thought, That's actually ridiculous, because I can take constructive criticism and constructive feedback, but I won't take it from somebody who hasn't got a channel with no videos and no subscribers. It's nonsense. So I just kind of removed them from the channel. The best way to do that, you can basically, if you get people trolling you or spamming you can just remove them from a channel so they can't comment any further. It's kind of like an out of sight, out of mind thing. So there's no point in taking it personally. It depends what they say. If they say something you disagree with and they write it in a professional way, you can maybe just reply back professionally and stuff. That's fine. I've got no issue with that. But if they kind of get a bit abusive and saying your channel's a load of crap and you'd be better off in kindergarten, school and stuff, I just remove them from a channel. It's much easier. Just saves a lot of nonsense. So one here, like unrealistic expectations of fame and income. That's how true that is. I mean, because YouTube's hugely popular. We've all sat at home and watched these YouTube videos of people who have great communication skills. They're traveling the world. It looks like the world is their oyster, and they appear to be having no money problems, no work problems, and it all seems too good to be true, doesn't it? So it kind of sells the dream to people that they can be doing that too. And I'm not saying they can't, but it's much more complicated and it's much more of a journey than what they think. A lot of these if you had started as a travel vlogger 7 or 8 years ago, you'd be in a much better space today than trying to start as a travel vlogger today, where it's much tougher and the algorithms have all changed, and it's an overcrowded space for that particular niche. But people do have unrealistic expectations. Some people do make it, on YouTube and other platforms, and they've managed to carve out an income, a career, or reinvent themselves or reinvent their careers and stuff. But it is hard work. It's not, what I'm trying to say is, it's not like like a mobile phone thing where you just film it for like a couple of minutes and hit a few buttons and that's all your videos done for the day. It's much more hard work than that, and that's why a lot of people don't stick it out. So last one here, like changes circumstances. Yeah, things can happen. So for example, somebody might die, you might fall ill. The job which you had, which gave you the revenue to build the YouTube channel, might end. Lots of things, your car might break down. Lots of things could happen. I'll leave you to imagine the rest. So, it's a well-known fact that in life things don't stay the same. If you look at some of the most successful companies around, they don't stay the same. They merge, they get sold off, and bits get dumbed down and all the rest of it, and dissected up and split up and all the rest of it. So nothing stays the same, and it's the same in life. So if with regard to people's life circumstances, good or bad, look, things can change for the better as well. I'm not saying every change is a negative, but that's another thing that makes people kind of give up. So I'll just wrap up this video by saying, I personally think that if you have a YouTube channel, I personally think that it needs to be a hobby. Okay, the reason I say that is because you can't, I don't believe, go out and buy a video camera for like 600 quid, 500 quid, 600 quid, get a plane ticket for like 400 or 500 quid, and sort of have £1,000 behind you, and start thinking that you're running like a travel vlogging business, because you're not going to get any sponsors. Nobody's going to trust you. I mean, it's really hard. If you start a YouTube channel from scratch, it's really hard to get to 100 subscribers. It really is. I mean, you'll be surprised. And if you can get to 500 or 1,000, then that's a good start. Some people have got loads more. There's maybe it's a bit questionable how some people have got those subscribers, because the algorithms changed. Now, in the past, you used to be able to buy YouTube subscribers, for like 10, 20 quid via different agencies or via YouTube. But that's all changed now, because it says the algorithm favors like watch time and topics which interest and resonate with people. So it is quite hard. So that's why I think it has to be a hobby. And I certainly don't beat myself up every week or month if I don't make a video. I definitely make a video a month, there's no question about that. But what I don't do is make 3 a week, because it just takes too much time for me to do that in such a professional way, with all the editing and the research and blah 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 blah. It would just waste too much of my time. And my YouTube channel, I've had some success with it. I've got some subscribers. It feeds into what I do work-wise, if that makes sense. And it's a bit of a hobby. I don't spend all my time doing it. But I will freely admit the YouTube channel itself doesn't pay the bills. It just doesn't. Perhaps that feeds into some of the contract work I do, and people pick up on that. Maybe different businesses might pick up on that, and they might engage me to do some stuff with them based on that. But the actual YouTube channel itself doesn't make any money, and it was never meant to. Let's be clear. I don't view it as a business. It's more of a PR platform for me personally. But for some people, they start these things as a business, and they go out and buy all this kit. They think they're going to be travel vloggers on holiday all the time and making money. It just doesn't work out that way. And once they realise the costs and the time and the amount of hard work it requires, they give up on their channels. So okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video. So take care, and I'll see you soon.